And people are saying, why are you so picky? And when they're thrown these kind of comments, it's very hurtful. You are expired. Hello everybody, welcome back to Zevaulia with me, Zeva. Let's have a quick chit chat about a certain topic. This video is super random. I just want to share with you my 2 cents, my thoughts about a certain topic. As you can see from the title and also from the thumbnail, it's going to be about societal judgment towards women who are unmarried or not yet in motherhood by the time they end their 20s or before their 30s. This is not something that is uncommon, and it's actually something that I am currently going through, and there's a lot of things that is going in my head about this, and I'm sure that who knows out there, somebody who is kind of facing the same situation or having the same thoughts as me watches this video, finds this video and finds it encouraging and also comforting, because as we know, sometimes societal pressure, whether it is visible or invisible, whether it is blatantly in front of our faces or whether it's something low-key that people kind of judge or even make perceptions about you, either or, it's something that is totally uncomfortable. No matter how much you want to ignore it, no matter how much you want to just get on with your life, sometimes there are moments where it does get to you and you do have to think about it, and it kind of does put some pressure on you. And sometimes the pressure is not fair because there are various aspects, various conditions why you are in the state that you are. And by the way, this can also happen to men. There are also certain men out there where maybe by the time they reach a certain age and they're not married yet or they're not partnered up yet, they don't have kids yet, they also get pressure. But I think for the most parts, it's usually women that face these things, especially it has a connection with our biological function. Okay, disclaimer, this is something that I want to talk about from a heterosexual perspective, from a straight person perspective, because that is who I am, what I am, and I can't really try to relate with those not in the spectrum, and it's hard to relate directly to that. But if you're not straight but somehow you feel a connection to what I'm about to share with you, that's great, yeah. But just to keep in mind that this is from a heterosexual perspective, so I'm going to be using terms surrounding that. I think the first thing that I want to talk about is about how society perceives women in general, and this has that connection with the female sex, like the ability to conceive. Why do I say this? Because usually when you enter the institution of marriage or when you enter a long-term partnership, one of the goals, or even if it's not a goal, but one of the outcomes that could possibly happen is conceiving or having children, right? Now there are people who would like to conceive, would like to have children through the institution of marriage. And then there are also people out there who don't think that the institution of marriage is important, but then that is also something that they want. They want to have kids even though it's without the route, the formal route of institution of marriage from whatever belief system that you're part of. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about wedding, when you talk about partnering up, it is to build a family unit, to build a core unit. It's been going on since the olden times, before modern civilization was created. Mankind on earth have been, gathering in groups and building communities, building family units to protect each other, to provide for each other. So I think that from that sense, it's very natural to build a family units. Now, of course, it's not always included with the goal or the outcome of conceiving within a family unit. There are also people out there who do want to have children, but maybe through other methods that are not biological, for example, through adoption or through fostering. So these are all the dynamics behind the perception, or at certain times societal pressure, and also obligations. For example, there are certain faiths out there that believe that marriage is a part of fulfilling your faith's purpose. And I think this is the case for Abrahamic religions, for example. So for example, in Islam, if you marry, it means that you're completing half of your deen, something like that. This is where everything accumulates. I just have to lay that out for you. Now, when we talk about race and we talk about culture, I think Asian women in general, yeah, it's not always for every single Asian woman out there, of course, but in general, there's a tendency to receive higher pressure from family members, whether it is the core family, but usually it is the extended larger family, for women to get married, partner up around the ages of early 20s to the mid 20s. This is very common in Southeast Asian communities and East Asian communities, in South Asian communities, in Middle Eastern families as well. You know, you get the gist. It's something that is really highlighted. And don't think that this only happens to traditional families or conservative families. I think that even the more modern families, because it's entrenched in the culture, that pressure is there. Now, connecting a little bit to my personal situation at the moment, this is why I feel that I resonate a lot with this issue. I am not married yet. I am currently not in any form of a partnership. Throughout my 20s, the biggest chunk of my 20s consists of me getting higher education to higher education, and then also building my career, working here and there. I did have a few relationships, but none of them were long term. I do want to get married someday. I do want to have children someday, God willing, but it's not as easy as that. I'm not sure whether you feel the same way, but the higher educated you are, the more things that you consider when you're looking for a partner. And you just don't want to settle down. You just don't want to get married for the sake of getting married, or get into a relationship for the sake of getting into a relationship. There are many people out there that date around and trying this and that to see what it's like out there, and wanting to try things out before deciding which one they want to be with, you know. But there are also people like me that don't date around. I don't know, like I'm just not that comfortable to, for example, go on a dating app and then meet all these guys and chat, and you know, like sometimes I just feel like I would rather use my time for other things. That's why if I look at my past relationships, like most of them, I think literally all of them, no, all of them are from friendship first. I've never really found somebody through online dating, complete strangers that I have no idea their background, and just relying on their profile or their CV or something like that. I've never had that moment in my life where I play the field. Why is it not as easy as that? It's because I learned a lot from what I've been through, from what I see from people around me, and I want to take wiser decisions and better preparations when it comes to giving my energy and my heart to someone. Because I'm sure that a lot of you can relate. There are various types of people out there who, when you're in a relationship, you really give a lot of effort into it, and sometimes it doesn't reciprocate the way that you want it to. It's just the fact of life, or there are certain obstacles and certain conditions that just makes things much more complicated. At the end of the day, you are the person that will go through all of the ups and downs of what a relationship consists. You and the other person, your counterpart, whoever that is, or whoever will appear in your life in the future, both of you, it takes two to tango. You are the ones that will build that relationship, and it's not always easy. For example, maybe a lot of you can relate to this. You go to a larger family gathering, and then there will be the grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles, cousins, etc. that notice that you're still single, you're not married yet, and they make comments. Sometimes the comments can be mean, but in my condition, I've never received any mean comment, but sometimes I would categorize it as just insensitive, even though they might mean well. Or maybe you meet up with your friends or your neighbors and they have something to say because you're not tied down yet, or you're not married yet, you're not in a relationship yet. You know, there's always something that is lacking in their eyes. If there are people out there that are in a fortunate position to find someone that they can be with and they can build something together with, great, good for them, good for you if you are in a condition where everything is going smooth, everything is going as planned at that current moment, because you never know what's going to happen in the future. But sometimes when people are in a happy state where their lives, when it comes to their relationship or their love lives or whatever, is all stable and all good, they become insensitive to people who are not in the same situation or predicament as them, for example. There are a lot of people that don't understand how everybody is going through their own life journey. Everyone has their own pace. Everyone has their own shit and things to deal with that could maybe hinder, for example, in this case, finding somebody and getting into a long-term relationship or getting married. And also it seems that there are a lot of people out there that do forget, or maybe they don't realize that there are people out there that are not codependent, or they don't want to be in codependent relationships, or people like me who don't want to just get married to somebody random that has low quality or like a beta person. It's totally simplistic. It's not fair when you judge somebody who is not in a relationship yet, who is not married yet, as somebody who is picky, as somebody who has high standards for themselves. And by the way, sometimes being kind of picky and kind of having high standards, it can actually save you from stupid drama and also other toxic situations in the future. I know people, bless them, but this is just for an example. I know people who are in seemingly great relationships as seen on their social media, or as seen as what they share to you directly. And they have amazing weddings, amazing receptions, amazing akads. The first few years in marriage or first few years in a relationship is all well, happy, and peaceful. But then a few years down the road, they discover various problems, from the small problems unto the very big problems. What does this show? Everybody goes through various trials and tribulations in their lives, in various stages of their lives. It doesn't mean if somebody gets married in their early 20s that they will, for example, if they want kids, they will have kids in just a few years. There are couples who have to wait tens of years later, a few years later, like beyond 5 years, then they can have a baby, but they actually got married in their early 20s. Another scenario, somebody gets married in their mid-20s. Everything went well, but down the road, somebody cheats on the other person, or down the road, somebody is left by their spouse because they feel that their spouse is not economically strong. There's various reasons. It's not always about cheating. There's always reasons that people just separate, whether it's in the form of a divorce or if you're not married, it's just, separation. Another situation, somebody is in an abusive relationship. Nobody realized it because in the first few years of them being together, everything seems so fine. That's why it really bothers me. Even if the person comes from a good place, from a positive place, wishing me well or the other person well, so that they could find somebody that will be able to build a healthy, sane, loving relationship. But then they also dismiss the various factors that could happen that makes a person want to be careful not to get into something too quickly or too brashly. There are situations when somebody just knew someone else for a few months and then they settle down, or they get married, or they become in a serious relationship and everything goes well, everything is fine. There are success stories like that, but it's not everybody's success stories. There are people who just want to go with the flow. They're willing to take the risks, even if they maybe have to go through all these problems. They just want to go for it. Good for them if they are ready to do that. But then there are also other people where there are various things that you need to take into consideration, and sometimes maybe someone is just too focused on their career for the time being, or too focused for their education for the time being, because that is what is important for the time being for them, and all that other people can do is just judge. And people sometimes, they don't also take into consideration, they're not thoughtful of maybe some X factors that somebody is facing. For example, somebody is doing their PhD, a woman is doing their PhD for the betterment of her future. She really wants to find somebody and build a family. But guess what? There are various men out there, she is straight by the way, for example, that are intimidated by her, that are intimidated by women who are highly educated, who knows what they want, who don't take any shitty situations, who don't want to be taken for granted, who are strong in their beliefs, who are strong in their thoughts. And people are saying, why are you so picky? See, there are various scenarios why people are in the situation that they are, but sometimes others just overlook it all and just think that it's all easy. Even if you mean well, even if you wish somebody well, but you have to understand that, especially if you're talking to somebody that do want to find somebody to be with for the long term, and God willing until you die and depart from this earthly plane, but maybe they are facing certain things that other people don't understand. There are also other examples. For example, somebody has found someone, but then there are other obstacles around them that makes it complicated for them to be together, and then they have to part. And there's another situation when somebody finds someone, but apparently their personalities and their viewpoints just don't match, and this is only discovered down the road. And then another condition, when one party gives way more effort than the other, and then it becomes an imbalance, and it gets so tiring and draining, and it didn't work out. Another insensitive comment that could appear in these situations is when somebody starts preaching about when is the healthiest age to conceive. Okay, we all know that biologically speaking, when we talk about medics, women in their 30s are the most fertile because that is when a lot of their eggs are in their prime. That could be one instance. But remember, sometimes when we talk about fertility, it's not always about women. Men can also have fertility issues, but somehow it's always the women that gets blamed most of the time. And two, everybody's health is different. Everybody's bodies are different. Who knows? There are cases when somebody who is in their 30s is much healthier than somebody in their 20s. It doesn't always mean that you're younger, you're more fit. You can't diagnose someone generic like that. By the books, yes, in your 20s, it's the prime time to get pregnant. But the reality is different. There are also many people out there who conceive in their 30s and even in their 40s, and they're fine. Of course, there are specific complications in each stage, but I just don't like the way some people feel that they can just throw these insensitive comments to people. I know that this happens out there to many women because I read things in forums, I read things in comment sections, I listen to things that my friends say, and these are the things that I have accumulated that I want to share on my platform. If you are a woman who don't want to have kids, good for you, but there are women who do, and when they're thrown these kind of comments, it's very hurtful. And the thing is, not every woman show it. There are women who are very tough, so even though like people say A, B, and C, they're like whatever, but still that negative energy is thrown at you, it's thrown at her, and they feel it to some extent, even if they're like nonchalant about it. One of the worst comment is hearing somebody say or somebody unconsciously think that you are expired. We are not items. We are not a milk carton that has an expiration date. Sometimes I just think that women are underappreciated when it comes to their goals and their dreams. At the end of the day, people would nag them more about getting married and also conceiving. But I don't think that is something that should be nagged about. There is a time for everything. If a woman achieves many things, if they have higher education, if they break glass ceilings, it should be celebrated more. Even if it means that they achieve it in certain ages, especially ages that are considered as prime. Why can't women do it simultaneously? Why can't women do it in different times? Both are fine. Why does it matter? If a person wants to criticize but they can't give a solution, then what? What's the point? It's not helping. There are women who are more careful because they know that domestic violence exists. And by the way, when I mention about domestic violence and domestic abuse, it's not always by men. There are also women that do it. Or maybe the tables have turned and you found out that you're the one that's abusive. You're the one that's not mature yet. It requires maturity in various levels. Some people have it since the beginning. Some people grow it over time. When it comes to these things, it's not a picture perfect jigsaw puzzle that people can just fit themselves into these molds. Everybody is different. There are people who don't care when it comes to the condition that their long-term partner or their future spouse has debt issues, has credit issues. But there are people who do. There are people who don't mind that their future partner, their future spouse, sleeps around and has STDs. But there are people who do. There are people who don't mind that their future partner, their future spouse, are best friends with their exes or have a special relationship more than normal with their best friends who fall into the category of their sexual preference. There are people who don't mind, but there are people who do. There are people who don't give a damn about societal restrictions or communal restrictions or other such restrictions, including religious restrictions. But there are people who do mind, or they don't mind, but because of the situations, they have to mind. So please never say, whether it is towards women or men, but usually towards women, that they are expired. There is no expiration date for your chance to find love, for your chance to build a relationship that is healthy, strong, and gives you and brings you happiness. About conceiving, having children. Every age has its risks, and there are ways to overcome that, whether it is through biological children or not, if that is what you want. That is all from me now. I hope that opens up your mind a little bit, makes you kind of think about it. Even if you disagree with what I said, bear in mind that there are people out there that don't think the way you think. And we need to respect each other more. We need to appreciate each other more. And we need to be more sensitive, more thoughtful of other people. Because we don't know what they've been through. We don't know the paths that they've been through. Who knows that they've gone through tougher things than you? Or who knows they haven't been through tougher things than you or the same tough things as you, but they have their own inner struggles that you have no idea about. Try to be more kind. Even if you disagree with someone, just let it be and move on. We don't always have to agree with everybody. We don't always have to be friends and be cordial to everybody, but at least show respect and move on. Thank you for listening. If you found this insightful, feel free to share around. Who knows, somebody needs to hear all this. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.